Today I want to talk about memorable readings that I have received as a sitter or a client. Readings I've received from other mediums. It's great to be on the other end of that because it really reminds you, especially when you get a really meaningful reading, it reminds you of what it is you're doing for and with clients, paying clients. So that's what I want to tell you about a couple of them. There's someone that I was closely related to, but we were never close. We didn't have a close relationship, even though we should have. And I knew that this man, that his parents had died when he was a kid. And then when I was an adult, I later found out that they had actually been murdered. But I didn't know much about him. I didn't know much about that situation, and we never got along. So I didn't, put any effort into that. And so just a few days ago, I was sitting in a circle of professional mediums where we read each other, and then we also discuss sort of the business side of mediumship and technical issues and whatever. And so someone read me, and she got this relative, but I didn't recognize it at first. She said she had wasn't sure she had a little boy or someone showing her himself as a little boy, and she said he comes on this traumatic event, and it's traumatic. It affects the rest of his life. He's different and changed for the rest of his life. She said it's what I'm seeing. She said is really graphic. I find something, I'm looking at coagulated blood on my hands. She said it's really, really graphic and really horrific. And nobody took it. And then she said, okay, so he definitely passes when he's older. He's showing me aging. And then she goes on to describe in detail this relative of mine. And I realized in that reading that he had found his parents. I guess I could have figured that out. Who else would have found them? What I know about the circumstances of how they passed, where and when they were murdered. He would have found them, but that never occurred to me to even think about that. But it was really clear in this reading, he was the one who found them. And you can imagine how traumatic that would be at around 11 is how old I think he was. And it explained so much about that relative's emotional unavailability to the rest of us. And it was just fascinating. And I have a lot more compassion for him now than I did when he was here. It's kind of sad to say, but you sort of start a relationship with someone as a child, and you don't think about what their life was like before you were born, right? So that was really interesting to me. Lots of people get my mom. She's very good at coming through. But some people have gotten really specific things. I have to say, my mother and I had a complicated relationship. She loved me with all of her heart, and she made a lot of really terrible mistakes. Parenting is a skill separate from love, and my mom was not very good at those skills. So, some things she was outstanding at, and then other things she got really wrong. So some people have gotten my mom and have talked about really specific incidents, and she either acknowledges how terrible that was or outright apologizes. And I know from the readings that I've gotten that she knows now exactly how I feel about certain things and why I feel the way I do about certain things. So, for example, I'm hearing impaired. I wear hearing aids because I don't have to be hearing impaired. My parents made some mistakes when I was a kid, and I ended up hearing impaired. I have other health issues because of mistakes that my parents made. And sometimes when these things come up and I'm dealing with them in my adult life decades later, I would get a little resentful about having these ongoing issues. And now, after having been read, people have gotten both of my parents, and being read so many times, I know that they were overwhelmed. And previous to discovering this world of mediumship, it just sort of made me sad or angry to think about those times. And now I look at certain incidents and I realize they were totally overwhelmed, didn't even know it themselves, and they were not doing the best that could be done, but they absolutely were doing the best that they could do in those moments. And I really didn't believe that. Because people say, oh, they were doing the best they could do, and I just thought, well, that's such a terrible excuse. But now I really do understand they really were doing the best that could be done in those moments, even if it wasn't. They were doing the best that they could do, even though it wasn't the best way to do something. And for their sake and for my own, I wish things had been better for them, because they both experienced really terrible things early in life that affected the rest of their lives. So, and I couldn't come to that mindset before I knew about mediumship, and knowing about mediumship and experiencing so many readings, because I've been read dozens of times by very experienced mediums and also people who are still learning or just beginning to learn, but they're good. They haven't gotten in their own way yet. I've said in other videos, I've made a list of people I have in spirit. I have about 70 people in spirit. There are a handful, tiny handful of those who were perpetually, relentlessly unkind to me while they were here. And every single one of them has come through in readings really loving and supportive and kind, and nothing like I knew them here. And at first, when that first started to happen, I would say in my head, like, you couldn't have been that way a little bit while you were here, like just a little bit. But over various readings that I've gotten from mediums, I now am very much aware of the pain that they were holding in their bodies, the pain that they were holding in their memories, and I have a better appreciation for their difficulties, the difficulties they were experiencing as they were here in physical bodies. And it's obviously easier now, being free of this physical environment, to be better, to be kinder, to be more patient. I really feel all the people that annoyed me or hurt my feelings or physically harmed me in my early life, all of them, I see them now and go, oh, I see how they got there, and I understand it. I still think it's wrong to mistreat people, especially to mistreat children, but I really understand how they came to be the people that they were and to behave how they did. And that helps me. That helps me to forgive. So anyway, so I don't know, being on the receiving end of mediumship readings can be, I think it's important to keep in mind how meaningful and how much they can affect a client. Next week, I want to talk about the fact that mediumship is super, super subtle. The things you see in television and movies are just these club you over the head. You know, you see people with your eyes and you hear them with your ears, and it's, you know, movie-like. It's nothing like that. It's just nothing like that. So I want to talk about the subtlety of mediumship next time. Until then, thank you for tuning in this time, and see you next time.